Everybody, it's Chris from Texas Toast Guitars, and today we are going to make a Jaguar body, Jaguar, a Jag body out of this really rad piece of wood. Something I've been wanting to do for quite a while is make another Jag for myself. I've made quite a few of them in the past, and I've sold them all off, and I don't have one. This neck in the back, we started for a guy a bunch of years ago, and then he canceled the order, and the neck just sort of sat around for 4 or 5 years. And I've slowly gathered a bunch of parts for this thing. The pickups, Dylan and I wound at one of the Dylan Talks Tone Wind Your Own Pickups class. And I've got a bridge and a vibrato and a plate with a 3-way switch on it. I'm going to modify it a little bit with a little bit different pick guard. This piece of wood is really cool. This is roasted pine, and it's really thick right now. It's over 2 inches thick. We'll plane that down, but right now it only weighs a little over 5 pounds, so this body is going to be super lightweight, so I'm looking forward to that. And I've got some really cool ideas on how I want to finish it. So let's get started. The first step in this project is planing the body to thickness, planing and sanding it. So here I am at the planer. Ultimately, I want this body to be 1 5/8 thick. The idea is that you get it pretty close with the planer, and then you take it over to the sander and finish it up there. You have a little bit more control with the sander. Watching somebody sand is pretty boring. Let's hurry up and get this done. So now it's time to attach the template to the body. This is a template that I made several years ago from existing 1/4 inch templates that I had. The neat thing about this template is it has everything you need all in one, including the neck pocket. If you can see there, the neck pocket route is about half the thickness of the total template. So I can actually do the outline and the neck pocket and all the other routes using just the one template. I'm using some double-sided sticky tape, but I'm also going to screw it down. I could probably do one or the other, but I don't really want it to move around, and I don't know that I wanted to trust. This is the first time I've used this wood, and I didn't want to trust screws to hold it in the entire time because there's quite a bit of routing to do. And I'm getting it lined up really close to the center line. This guitar is going to have a solid color when it's all said and done, so I'm not too worried about the center line, but I did pay attention when I originally laid it out. The next thing that I like to do is drill my 4 neck screw holes before I route the pocket. That way when you machine the pocket, the holes are really clean and there's no chip out from drilling them after the fact. It's not totally necessary to do it in this order, but I like to do it because I like to watch the holes appear as I'm doing as I'm routing the neck pocket. So now I'm setting up to do the outline, and I'm raising the pin so that it rides on the outside of the body all the way around. The if it was too low, it would fall into the neck pocket as I try to go around. So I fired up the pin router and I pushed the foot switch and nothing happened. That's because the air was turned off, because this is Saturday morning after we did a Friday evening live stream, and we always try and turn the compressor off. So then I pushed the foot switch and the lock on the pin router is on, because you can lock the pneumatic ram out. So I had to release that, push the foot switch, and now we're finally ready to do some routing. So I'm lowering the ram manually until it starts touching, and I'm just going to go around and give one single pass fairly shallow, and then that'll make it even easier to follow for the rest of the passes. And rather than use the foot switch up and down, I'm just going to wind it down by hand. I can take a little bit more. It's just as fast. There's very little material on the outside of this thing to take off, so I could probably almost do it in one pass, but I don't want to necessarily overtax anything. I don't know that I would have overtaxed anything even if I did it in one pass. By the way, this is exactly the same way that we do it in class. So if you ever come to a class and you get the chance to use the pin router and route the outside of your body, this is what it looks like. And everybody thinks the pin router is this monster intimidating tool, but I actually find it to be quite inspiring because it's so easy to use and it does such a good job. It's just a lot of fun to use. And it's very old school, which I think is cool. Knowing that this is the way original Fender bodies were made is pretty neat. So the closer you get, the more careful I'm trying to be that I don't overwind and go too far, because it would really be terrible if I ran that cutter into the pin. Okay, and this is the last pass, and sometimes we do this last pass on the table router, but because this template is thick enough, I can go just to the bottom of the body and not have to worry about getting into the template. And since this is an MDF template and they're easy to make, if I screw it up, I can always just make another one. This isn't one of Steve's good templates that we cherish and take care of. And it felt like I didn't quite get it, so I went around that part just one more time just to make sure. Checking it to make sure that I got it all, and I'm pretty happy with it. So now I have to raise the whole machine back up because I don't want to cut all the way. And I always raise it all the way up even though I know it's going to be too high, just because I don't want to have an accident happen. I don't want to assume that I'm high enough. So now I'm going to reset the pin. All the rest of the routes are, well, the neck pocket is that deep. I need it to go into the neck pocket, as you can see there. So the first route I'm going to do is the pickup route, and I'm going to make it 5/8 deep. This pin router, each step of the pneumatic ram is about 1/8 of an inch. So on my first pass, if I just barely make it touch the wood, as you're going to see, if I just barely make it touch the wood, and then I can go 1 through 6 on the pneumatic ram settings, and it'll be basically exactly 5/8. Now on a pickup route like this, it's not crucial that it's exactly 5/8, but I want it to be pretty close. And this is the only route that is 5/8. Well, the neck pocket's 5/8 as well, but this is the only route that I'm going to do to 5/8. I'll do the rest of them all the way to 5/8, and then I'll make them all deeper. You'll see when we get there. I think it's really fun watching this chunk of wood suddenly become an identifiable body. And if you notice, I'm orienting everything the exact same way every single time. I forgot to talk about that going around the outside, but I try and make the motion that I approach the tool the same every single time around, every lap around. And that's because the pin isn't lined up exactly with the cutter. It's off by like 10/1000ths of an inch, which is the width of a high E guitar string, but it's still off just a tick. And if you route things in a different orientation, you'll end up with these little 10/1000ths striation lines. So I try and keep everything exactly the same, and I'm going to keep this body exactly the same. I'm going to point it, forward to the pin router the whole time. And that's so that everything is exactly lined up the same with everything else. All right, so that's the pickup routes. I'm going to double check them just to make sure. I think they were just a hair over 5/8, which is totally fine. And now I'm going to do the control switch, the pickup selector switch. And I'm still at 1. Everything else has to be deeper, so I can go a little bit deeper with my first pass. And everything that has to be deeper, I'm going to do it all 1 through 6 with the pneumatic ram, and then I'm going to go back. I'm going to reset the pin router to my maximum depth at 6, and then we'll go back and do 1 through 6 to that maximum depth. Alright, so that's 1 through 6 on the pickup switch. Jags originally had 3 slider switches, on-off slider switches, 1 for each pickup and then 1 for a bass cut but on this one I'm going to use a plate that has a Telecaster 3-way switch in it. I think that's pretty cool. I'm also not going to put in the rhythm circuit above the pickups. I don't have much use for it. It's a lot of extra parts that aren't all that easy to source. It's kind of a hassle to wire it. And since I don't use it and I don't like it, I'm going to not put it in, and I've got a modified pick guard that I designed. I sort of stole the upper route from, or the upper design from something else. But anyway, I'm not going to put that rhythm circuit in. Alright, so there's the control cavity at a little over 5/8 depth. And now we have to do the vibrato. So back to 1. Now on these first passes, you have to sort of just trust the pin and kind of feel it out. I know about what this thing looks like, but until I do that first pass, I'm not exactly sure of the exact shape. But after that, then it's real easy. Alright, so that's the vibrato route. Now I'm going to, after I blow this off, this is a little trick that I like. So it's still on 6, it's still on the deepest cut, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the cutter down on 6 until it's about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom of the body. And it looks like it's going to shoot all the way through, but it's about 1/4 of an inch. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and go 1 through 6 again, and it'll hit that 1/4 of an inch depth. And I could do it where I pull it out, I go all around and measure and set it that way, but I think it's just as easy to do it the way that I did it, and it's a little faster. It's kind of a slick trick, I think. Okay, so the pickup switch cavity is now complete. I don't need to do the pickups, they're the right depth, but I do need to do these other two routes, the controls, volume and tone, and switch control. I have to make those deeper. And they wouldn't have to be all the way deep, but might as well. It'll make the body lighter. I try and do basically the same motion every single pass that I do, because the deeper you go, the harder it is to see where you are. There you go. Just, yeah, throw that to the ground, Chris. Good job. It's the deeper the cut, the harder it is to see what wood is left. So I try and do the same motion every single time and just sort of go off of muscle memory. So I do the outside of that one and then I go down the middle. And this one, I start in the back right corner every time, and go around. And at this point, I can't even really hardly see what wood is in there. I'm just going off of the previous cuts, and you can hear it cut. And if you're not cutting something, but I hate having to go back one last time and take one little tiny nub of wood out. And this one does have to be the same depth because the trim arm is long, and you don't want it to bottom out on the bottom of the body and limit the travel of the vibrato. I just called it a trim. Somebody will get after me on the internets. At this point, I think that issue is so clouded, you can really call it either one. All right, I think this is the last pass. And that is it. The world's longest all pin router video section. Don't worry, there's plenty more to come. Do a little cleaning up here. It's neck pocket time. I've wrapped the pin with 3 wraps of tape to effectively make the neck pocket smaller. This is so that I can fit the neck. This neck has been around for so long, I don't recall exactly well, I know what template we used, but I'm not exactly sure of its dimensions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of sneak up on it. What I want to do is I want to route this pocket out to a little bit less than 5/8 of an inch. And then I'll test fit the neck and see if it'll go in. And if it doesn't go in, which I'm virtually positive it's not going to, it's going to be too tight, then I can unwrap some of that tape and slowly creep up on the perfect fit. I'd rather it be snug than loose, but I don't want it to be so tight that I can't get it in and out, or it you know, does that famous Fender body crack thing. So I want it to be just right. And this is why I drilled those holes earlier, is because now when I machine down through them, they look really, really clean. There's no tear out. It just looks nicer. I'm going to go 1 through 5 on the pneumatic ram, knowing that at 5 it's not going to be quite deep enough. So I'm going to measure it and see where I am. And I think I'm right at a 1/2 inch at this point. And I want it to be probably 0.6, so I've lowered it a little bit more. And I'm going to go around. I'm going to measure again, and as luck would have it, I got totally lucky and just nailed it on the first shot. Usually I'd have to probably creep up on it. I decided I better measure again just to make sure, because usually that doesn't happen. So now we get to see if the neck will fit. And as you can see, it is too tight, which is good. I don't mind that. I'd rather it was too tight than too loose, because I have in place how to fix the too tight. So I'm going to vacuum up a little bit. I like to make sure the table's really, really clean when I do neck pockets, because I don't want the body to rock around and change any of the dimensions. You also have to wait for the tool to spin all the way down before shoving your hand in there to grab the pin. We have a friend that did that once, and the pin stuck, and he ran his hand into the spinning tool. So that's a good lesson for everybody, even if you've never done that. Don't do that. And I can wait for the pin to stop spinning, or the bit to stop spinning. So I've taken a wrap of tape off, and I'm just going to have to, it's all set at the same exact height and everything, depth. So all I have to do is just go around the edge, and you can see it's just barely taken any off. But that may be enough. Except I know how this story ends, and it's not enough. So now I have to wait for the router to stop spinning. There we go. Now I can pull the pin and take one more wrap of tape off of it. And I think this is going to be the one. It's a good thing I have a strong blower. All right. And go around the outside. And just take a smidge off. You can see that little bit of sawdust. That's all it took off. Try it. And that's the perfect fit. And it'll get a little bit looser every time I put the neck in and out. So I'm going to try and not do that and not yank it and pull it and all of that kind of stuff. So we're done with the template on this side. Take the screws out. Fender used to hold templates onto bodies with nails, and if you've ever seen a stripped Fender body, you can see where the 2 nail holes are that they would later fill. At this point it looks like I'm getting outsmarted by double-sided sticky tape. And it's just going to come screaming off. Oh, I'm surprised I didn't get hit in the face with my own template. And now what I'm going to do is there's a couple of holes that I want to locate now while the body's still square. I want to locate the bridge thimble holes, and while I'm at it, I'm going to locate the vibrato plate screws. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this template on very, very square to the routes that I've put in. It's easier to do this when everything is, when the outside's square, doesn't have any round over and all of that. This wood's pretty soft, so I can just like push it in a little bit. Good. And the punch that I needed wasn't in the little transfer punch kit there, so I just went over and grabbed drill bits, and I'm going to just bump the wood with the drill bit, the correct size drill bit. And there you go. And I think, actually I know, I am done with the template. So now it's time to put the round over on the body. This is a 1/2 inch round over bit. And what I'm doing now is you don't want to round over the neck heel with a 1/2 inch bit, because then the square chrome plate won't fit. The plate will overhang. So what I'm doing is I'm marking how far I want to go with the router, where I want to start and stop. And then I'm just going to go all the way around the body. I have to watch where I'm going to stop because I don't want to go too far, and I'll finish that little bit off right there just with file and some sandpaper for that final transition. And then on the top, as long as the bearing touches the front of that, then this one's real easy to do. You just go around. You don't have to worry about where you start or stop. Just go all the way around it. Now it's time to figure out where my comfort contours are. This is my comfort contour marking gauge. It's actually just a piece of flat wood that was floating around in the shop. This tool actually has another purpose, but we won't get into that now. I'm just kind of going by eye and where I want it and where I feel like it's going to be. So I usually mark up about 1.5 inches from the belly curve, and then I sort of use my hand as a compass and draw it out. On Jazzmasters and Jags, I probably make the back one a little too deep, but I like them that way, so that's the way I'm going to make them. Wasn't happy with that first one. Seemed a little too deep even for me. This is something that I like to stress in class. You're allowed to erase. If you don't like something, erase it and start over. So now I think, well, maybe somewhere in the middle is going to be better. And I think this one is the one for me. Okay? And then I like to draw the rest of it out as far as how deep it's going to go onto the side. So I kind of draw that out, and I'll draw it out on the arm contour too. They usually go at least halfway through the body at the maximum. So I'm just making some notes on where I want everything to end. This is the jig that Matt and I made for cutting these off. This wood is real easy to machine, so I'm not cutting all the way to the line. But that's a really good start. When we made the jig, we actually copied the angle off of a old 80s G&L body that Mark Dresser had sent us for some custom work back when we used to do that stuff. And we made the jig according to his guitar. Now, I'm doing the same thing here because this wood is so easy to machine, and I can take a bunch of it off with a sander relatively quickly. I'm going to not cut very close to the line. Here's the deadhead sander. This thing works really, really well for the arm contour. And like I said, this wood is easy to machine, and boy, it really was. It just took no time at all to get exactly what I wanted. I'm pretty happy with that, so that one's done. So I missed the entire section of sanding with the new drum sander for the tummy cut. I apologize for that. I don't know how I did that. But it does a really good job of being able to control just exactly how you want that tummy cut to look. Here I am sanding the transition from the 1/2 inch round over to the neck. There's a little bit of sanding there, a little bit of just, breaking off of the edge. There's still some more sanding on the top and the back and the sides before we can do any sealer or anything like that. But that's the basic gist of making this Jag body. It's about ready to get started with paint.
So there you go, just like that, it's now a Jaguar body. Weighs 3.4 pounds, all finished up. This wood was really nice to work with. Smelled nice, looks good, worked real easy, and I'm really looking forward to finishing this thing up. The next episode we'll do some pore filler, some sealer, and then we may even get to paint in that episode. I'm going to maybe try and do this in 3 episodes. So the next one will probably be all the paint, and then the last one will be set up and all that kind of good fun stuff. So anyway, this is Chris from Texas Toast, reminding you, if you're so smart, find a friend who started a YouTube channel like I did. We'll see you next time.